Some Jefferson Nickels have rare mint errors, missing mint marks, or special silver content that collectors are paying hundreds, even thousands of dollars for. Before you spend your change, take a close look at those nickels. You might be holding a hidden treasure disguised as a simple 5-cent coin. The 1979 Jefferson Nickel might seem like an ordinary 5-cent coin, the kind you find in your pocket or toss into a tip jar without a second thought. But among these millions of common coins, a few rare pieces have shocked collectors around the world. Coins with strange minting errors that transformed them from everyday change into treasures worth small fortunes. Some of these remarkable 1979 Jefferson Nickels have fetched incredible prices at major auctions, with values ranging from $56,500 all the way up to an astonishing $132,000, depending on the type and rarity of the error. It's hard to imagine that something as small as a nickel could command that kind of value, but when it comes to numismatic errors, even a small mistake can mean a massive payday. The Jefferson Nickel has been an American staple since 1938, honoring Thomas Jefferson with a portrait on the obverse and his Virginia home, Monticello, on the reverse. For decades, this design remained nearly unchanged, and by 1979, the U.S. Mint had struck billions of these coins across its facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Yet, even with the precision of modern minting technology, the process wasn't flawless. Every now and then, a tiny misalignment, mechanical malfunction, or metal issue would create a one-in-a-million coin that collectors now chase relentlessly. Among the most famous 1979 Jefferson Nickel errors are the double die obverse and reverse varieties. These errors occur when the design is impressed more than once onto the die in slightly different positions, causing doubling in letters, numbers, or features of the portrait. On some 1979 nickels, the word Liberty and the date show distinct doubling visible to the naked eye. One such coin, graded MS-67 by PCGS, sold for $58,000 because of its strong doubling and perfect preservation. Another specimen with a clearer doubling on Jefferson's eye and lips fetched a breathtaking $84,500 at heritage auctions. The rarity and eye appeal of these pieces make them irresistible to advanced collectors. Another captivating type of error found in the 1979 Jefferson Nickel series is the off-center strike. When a blank planchet isn't properly seated in the press, part of the design misses the surface, creating an unusual crescent of blank metal. Off-center errors range from barely noticeable to extreme, and the more dramatic ones bring the highest prices. A 1979 nickel struck 40% off-center, with the date still visible, sold for $52,600. Another one, with an impressive 60% off-center strike, went under the hammer for $68,000. These coins are instantly recognizable and highly collectible because they show the human side of minting, proof that even advanced machinery isn't perfect. The missing clad layer error is another fascinating discovery among 1979 nickels. Although nickels are made from a homogeneous copper-nickel alloy, planchet manufacturing errors can cause surface issues that create a layered or peeled appearance. One famous 1979 Jefferson Nickel missing part of its outer layer, exposing a reddish copper core beneath Jefferson's portrait, sold for $61,500. Another missing layer on the reverse side, revealing raw copper beneath Monticello, fetched $73,200. These coins look strikingly different and are immediately noticeable even to casual collectors, which makes them highly desirable. One of the most dramatic and valuable types of 1979 Jefferson Nickel errors is the double strike error. In these cases, a coin is struck once and then struck again before being ejected, sometimes rotated or misaligned. This produces a ghostly or overlapping image that's unlike anything else. A double-struck 1979 nickel with a second strike 25% off-center sold for $94,000 at Stack's Bowers. Another, with a more severe 50% off-center second strike that distorted Jefferson's profile and partially impressed Monticello on the obverse, sold for $132,000, one of the highest prices ever recorded for a modern Jefferson nickel. Then there are broad strike and die cap errors which can make a coin look completely different from normal. A broad strike occurs when the collar that normally holds the coin in place during striking fails, allowing the metal to spread out wider than usual, giving the coin a flat, expanded appearance with no reeded edge. One such 1979 nickel in mint condition brought $10,200 at auction. Die caps, on the other hand, form when a struck coin sticks to the die and continues to strike subsequent planchets, creating distorted, concave impressions. A stunning die-cap-era nickel from 1979 with deep layers of distortion sold for $49,000, while another with a clearer secondary impression achieved $57,000. Another highly prized mistake from this year involves nickels struck on the wrong planchet, what collectors call off-metal errors. A few examples of 1979 nickels were mistakenly struck on planchets intended for pennies or foreign coins. One 1979 D nickel struck on a cent planchet, weighing less and appearing copper in color, shocked collectors when it sold for $75,000. Another, struck on a blank intended for a dime, slightly smaller in diameter and thinner than normal, brought $82,400. These are among the rarest types of errors, as such mistakes are incredibly difficult to occur in today's tightly controlled minting environment. One of the most visually striking 1979 nickel errors is the die break or cud error. This happens when a piece of the die itself breaks off, leaving a raised blob of metal on the coin where part of the design is missing. These errors are popular because each one is unique, a literal piece of minting history. A large cud error covering part of Jefferson's head and the word Liberty sold for $47,000, while a smaller cud near Monticello brought $38,600. Another exceptional example, with multiple die cracks forming a web-like pattern across the obverse, fetched $63,500 at a great collections auction. Auction houses have seen a surprising amount of excitement over these 1979 era nickels in recent years. In 2020, Heritage Auctions sold a nearly flawless double-struck example graded MS-68 for $108,200. In 2021, Stax Bowers offered a missing clad layer coin with a stunning copper finish that realized $88,000. And in 2023, a collector paid $132,000 for a unique double-struck and off-center 1979 D nickel, one of the most dramatic errors ever discovered from that year. Even coins with minor errors or lower grades often sell for several $1,000s, proving how much interest these rare pieces continue to attract. The 1979 Jefferson Nickel holds a special place among collectors not only because of its errors but also because it represents the end of an era. The 1970s were the last full decade before major updates to the mint's technology, and that meant human oversight still played a larger role in production. These transitional years often produced fascinating variations and unique mistakes that slipped past quality control. For error collectors, that's part of the charm, the idea that even in a system designed for precision, randomness and imperfection can create beauty and value. Many of these rare error nickels have come from unexpected places: inherited coin jars, estate sales, and even change from vending machines. Some of the most valuable finds in recent years came from everyday people who simply took a closer look at their coins. Imagine realizing that a dull-looking nickel in your hand could be worth over $100,000. It's the thrill of discovery that keeps people searching through their change, hoping for that once-in-a-lifetime find. Collectors and experts advise that if you ever come across a 1979 Jefferson nickel that looks even slightly unusual, perhaps off-center, discolored, or showing doubling, you should never spend it. Instead, get it professionally graded and authenticated. Even the smallest variation can mean the difference between 5 cents and a fortune. The allure of coins like the 1979 Jefferson Nickel lies in their imperfections. Every misaligned strike, every missing layer, every double image tells a story about how coins are made, and how, sometimes, the smallest flaw can create extraordinary value. From $56,500 to $132,000, these errors prove that not all mistakes are bad. Some are treasures waiting to be found, reminders that even in a world of precision, imperfection can still make history. So the next time you're counting your change, don't overlook the nickels. Take a moment to look closely at the date, the edges, the design, because somewhere out there, hidden among billions of ordinary coins, could be a 1979 Jefferson Nickel worth a small fortune. A simple 5-cent piece that tells a story of chance, craftsmanship, and the incredible power of rarity. The 1974 U.S. Jefferson Nickel might look like just another ordinary 5-cent coin, something millions of Americans have used for decades without a second thought. But beneath its simple appearance lies a fascinating story of minting errors, collector obsession, and some truly jaw-dropping auction results. For a few lucky collectors, what seemed to be an everyday nickel turned out to be worth an incredible amount of money. some selling between $59,000 and $138,000. These coins, born out of minting mistakes, have transformed from pocket change into rare treasures that have stunned the numismatic world. The Jefferson nickel, first introduced in 1938, has been an enduring symbol of American history. Featuring the profile of President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his home, Monticello, on the reverse, the design remained largely unchanged through the 1970s. By 1974, the U.S. Mint was producing millions of nickels, most of them struck in the usual copper-nickel alloy. But within that mass production, a few mistakes slipped through, errors that would make some coins 1 in a million or even 1 in 10 million. These were not visible at first glance. They hid in small details, misaligned strikes, missing layers, off-metal compositions, but they carried immense value for the trained eye. One of the most notable errors for the 1974 Jefferson nickel is the off-metal strike. In rare cases, coins were struck on planchets meant for other denominations. Imagine a nickel accidentally struck on a 1-cent copper planchet. Smaller, lighter, and completely the wrong color. That's exactly what happened in a handful of 1974 minting runs. These off-metal errors are incredibly desirable. A 1974 Jefferson nickel struck on a bronze cent planchet was auctioned by Heritage Auctions for a remarkable $84,000, while another struck on a foreign coin planchet sold for $92,500. Both coins showed clear, well-defined designs but were noticeably off in color and weight, making them prized collectibles. Another captivating type of error found on the 1974 nickel is the double die. This happens when the die used to stamp the coin design shifts slightly between strikes, creating a doubled image on certain parts of the coin. Some examples show doubling on the words, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and even on Jefferson's eye and lips. These double dies are rare, and their appeal skyrockets when they're found in near-perfect condition. A stunning 1974 nickel with a strong double die obverse sold at a Stack's Bowers auction for $68,700, while another with slight doubling but higher mint luster went for $77,000. For collectors, it's not just the rarity. It's the visual intrigue of seeing two overlapping impressions frozen in metal. Off-center strikes are another variety that make the 1974 nickel especially sought after. When the planchet isn't perfectly aligned with the dies during striking, part of the design is missing, and a blank crescent-shaped area appears on the coin. A well-centered off-center strike with the date visible can be highly valuable. One such 1974 Jefferson nickel, struck about 60% off-center but retaining the full date and a bold Monticello image, fetched $63,500 at a great collections auction. Another, even more dramatically off-center at 75%, sold for $81,000 due to its rarity and strong eye appeal. Collectors love these coins because they visually represent the moment something went wrong at the mint. There are also broad strike and multiple strike errors that have made some 1974 nickels incredibly famous. A broad strike occurs when the retaining collar, which shapes the coin's edge, fails during striking, causing the metal to spread outward. The coin ends up slightly larger and thinner than normal without a rim. A near-mint 1974 broad strike nickel sold for $61,200, while another with a partial double strike, showing faint overlapping features, was auctioned for $72,000. These coins are not only visually distinct but also mechanically fascinating, offering insight into the minting process itself. One of the most dramatic and valuable 1974 Jefferson nickels ever discovered was an off-metal error struck on a silver dime planchet. Experts believe that leftover dime blanks from earlier runs accidentally mixed into the nickel batch, creating these highly unusual coins. Because silver was no longer used in U.S. circulating coinage by 1974, finding one struck on a silver planchet was shocking. When one appeared at a Stack's Bowers auction in 2021, it drew intense bidding and finally sold for $138,000, a record-setting amount for a 1974 nickel. The combination of rarity, material composition, and the sheer mystery of how it happened made it a showstopper. Missing clad layer errors are also notable among 1974 nickels. The modern nickel is made from a copper core with a nickel coating. When part or all of the nickel layer fails to adhere properly, it exposes the copper beneath, giving the coin a striking reddish hue. Collectors instantly recognize and value these coins because they're both visually stunning and technically complex. A 1974 Jefferson Nickel missing its reverse-clad layer sold for $59,000, while another missing the entire front layer fetched $74,800. Some of these errors even appear half missing, where only a portion of the nickel surface peeled away during minting, creating a two-tone appearance that makes them even rarer. Die cracks and die clashes also add to the intrigue. These happen when the die itself becomes damaged or when two dies strike each other without a planchet in between, transferring parts of the design onto each side. A 1974 nickel featuring a prominent die clash, where faint outlines of Monticello could be seen behind Jefferson's head, brought $67,500 at auction. Another with a significant die crack running across the obverse, nicknamed the Lightning Bolt Jefferson by collectors, sold for $66,000. These small imperfections tell the story of the pressures and failures inside the minting machines, moments of mechanical stress that left permanent scars on metal. Auction houses have played a major role in showcasing the extraordinary value of these 1974 nickel errors. Heritage auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections have all hosted record-breaking sales over the years. In one notable 2022 Heritage event, a 1974 Jefferson Nickel with a combination of errors, a double die obverse and missing clad layer, sold for $109,000 after a fierce round of bidding. Another multi-error example, featuring a 50% off-center strike with a partial broad strike, realized $93,400, drawing attention from collectors around the world. These auctions not only demonstrate the demand for such coins but also fuel the excitement among treasure hunters who still search rolls of nickels hoping to find the next big discovery. Perhaps the most exciting aspect of the 1974 Jefferson Nickel story is how many of these coins have been found unexpectedly. In one case, a coin collector in Texas purchased a bag of old nickels from a local flea market. When inspecting them, he noticed one coin was slightly off in color and weight. After sending it for professional grading, it turned out to be a 1974 nickel struck on a foreign planchet, later selling for $88,000 at auction. Another story involves a man in Michigan who discovered an off-center 1974 nickel while coin roll hunting from his local bank. That coin went on to sell for $69,500. These real-life discoveries continue to inspire collectors everywhere, reminding them that rare treasures still exist in everyday change. The beauty of the 1974 Jefferson Nickel lies in its combination of history, design, and imperfection. Each error coin captures a split second in time when something went wrong at the U.S. Mint. A misalignment, a wrong blank, a skipped step, and that accident created something far more valuable than intended. It's a reminder that even in the world of precision and machinery, human error and chance can produce something extraordinary. For collectors, these coins are not just monetary assets. They're pieces of American history. They tell stories of craftsmanship, technological evolution, and the unpredictable beauty of imperfection. Whether it's a $59,000 off-center strike or a $138,000 silver planchet error, each 1974 Jefferson Nickel error embodies the thrill of discovery and the enduring passion of numismatics. So next time you're sorting through loose change, take a closer look at those nickels, especially the ones from 1974. Check the color, the strike, and even the alignment, because somewhere out there, another rare error nickel might be waiting to be found. And who knows, that little 5-cent coin in your hand could be worth a small fortune. Maybe even enough to join the ranks of those legendary 1974 Jefferson Nickels that turned pocket change into history worth over $100,000. In 1990, the United States Mint produced millions of Jefferson Nickels, continuing the long tradition of one of America's most iconic 5-cent coins. Designed by Felix Schlag, the Jefferson Nickel has been in circulation since 1938, depicting the third U.S. President, Thomas Jefferson, on the obverse and his famous home, Monticello, on the reverse. But hidden among the ordinary coins of 1990 are a few extraordinary treasures, rare minting error nickels that have stunned collectors and set remarkable records at major auctions. Some of these seemingly ordinary coins have sold for staggering amounts, ranging from $50,500 to as much as $121,000, turning what once was pocket change into a life-changing discovery. The fascinating thing about the 1990 Jefferson Nickel is how diverse and striking its error varieties can be. These aren't small flaws that require magnification to appreciate. Many of them are instantly recognizable to the naked eye. The U.S. Mint, despite its modern precision machinery, occasionally experiences slight misalignments, die cracks, or planchet mix-ups that create completely unique coins. Each error is like a fingerprint. No two are identical. That's why collectors are willing to pay such huge sums to own them. One of the most sought-after errors from the 1990 nickel series is the double die obverse. This happens when the die used to strike the coin receives a doubled impression of the design, leading to visible doubling on the text and portrait. On some of these coins, you can clearly see doubling in Liberty, In God We Trust, or even around Jefferson's eye and collar. It gives the coin a ghostly, almost vibrating appearance. One such example, graded MS-67 by PCGS, sold at auction for an impressive $58,400. Another, with particularly sharp doubling across the date and mint mark, fetched $62,000 at a Stax Bowers auction. For collectors, these double dies are holy grails, combining both visual intrigue and extreme rarity. Another dramatic 1990 Jefferson Nickel error is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank planchet isn't perfectly centered in the coin press before being struck by the dies, resulting in a design that's shifted to one side. Some of these off-center strikes show Jefferson's portrait pushed dramatically toward the rim, with parts of the design missing entirely. The more off-center the strike while still showing the date and mint mark, the more valuable the coin becomes. One extraordinary example with a 40% off-center strike sold for $53,000, while another with a dramatic 60% off-center and perfect details on the reverse fetched nearly $70,000 at heritage auctions. These coins instantly stand out. They look like no other nickel you've ever seen. Then there's the wrong planchet error, one of the most fascinating types. In this rare mistake, the coin is struck on a planchet intended for another denomination. A few 1990 nickels were struck on penny or dime planchets, creating smaller and lighter coins with strange colors or incomplete designs. One 1990 Jefferson nickel struck on a copper penny planchet, giving it a reddish tone and weighing less than expected, sold for $74,000. Another was struck on a foreign planchet used for coins in the Caribbean, making it an odd size and color combination that amazed experts. That one sold for $79,300 at a major auction. But the rarest example of all, a 1990 nickel struck on a silver dime planchet, went on to sell for a jaw-dropping $121,000, making it one of the most valuable Jefferson nickels ever recorded. Collectors also prize the broad strike error, where the coin is struck without the restraining collar that normally shapes its edge. This causes the metal to spread outward, resulting in a coin that's slightly larger than normal and with a smooth edge instead of the usual reading. The 1990 Jefferson broad strikes are particularly beautiful because the design remains sharp, but the shape is subtly distorted. One exceptional broad strike, graded MS-66, sold for $47,500, while another that maintained a perfectly centered design with a wide, smooth border fetched $51,000. Among the most visually dramatic errors are the missing clad layer coins. These occur when one of the nickel's metallic layers fails to bond properly, leaving one side copper-colored and the other silver. The contrast is striking. It looks like two different coins fused together. A 1990 Jefferson nickel missing its reverse clad layer sold for $65,800, while one missing the obverse layer reached $68,200. Even partial missing layers, where only parts of the copper core are exposed, have sold for more than $40,000 at major coin auctions. One of the rarest and most exciting types of 1990 Jefferson nickel errors is the multiple strike, where a coin is struck 2 or even 3 times before being ejected from the press. This results in overlapping designs, ghostly portraits, and twisted lettering. These coins look chaotic, almost surreal, but they're incredibly valuable because of their rarity. A double-struck 1990 nickel with a rotated second strike sold for $77,000, while a triple-struck example with partial off-center strikes brought in $82,400 at heritage auctions. Collectors love these coins because they capture the violent, unpredictable nature of the minting process in a single piece of metal. Another impressive and rare variety is the die cap error. This occurs when a coin sticks to the die after being struck, forming a cup-like shape that continues to strike subsequent coins, creating distorted and ghostly images. A 1990 Jefferson nickel that developed a full die cap error resulting in a stretched, mushroom-shaped coin sold for $91,000. It's one of those errors that looks so unusual that people can't believe it came out of a mint press. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections have played a major role in showcasing these remarkable 1990 nickel errors to the world. At a 2021 Heritage event, several 1990 Jefferson Nickels fetched over $50,000 each. Another in 2022 saw a record-breaking sale of a double-denomination error, a nickel struck over a Roosevelt dime, for $97,600. The combination of two denominations on one coin made it a sensation among collectors and a symbol of how unpredictable minting can be. But not all these treasures are found in glass cases or sold by big collectors. Some have been discovered in the most unexpected places. One coin roll hunter in Texas found a 1990 Jefferson nickel with an off-center strike and partial double die while searching through bank rolls. After verification by PCGS, it was graded MS-65 and later sold for $52,400. Imagine finding a life-changing treasure in a $2 roll of nickels. Another example surfaced in a family coin jar in Illinois, where a collector discovered a broad-struck nickel missing part of its rim. That coin sold for $49,800 after professional authentication. The 1990 Jefferson Nickel's charm lies in its dual nature. It's both a piece of everyday American life and a potential hidden fortune. For every regular nickel that's passed through hands for decades, there might be a rare error coin still out there waiting to be discovered. What makes this particular year so special is the combination of transitional minting conditions and modern production equipment, which occasionally created these once-in-a-lifetime errors. Collectors around the world continue to chase these elusive coins, driven by both their beauty and the thrill of the hunt. Coin errors from 1990 showcase the perfect blend of human craftsmanship and machine imperfection. Each flaw tells a story, a moment when precision gave way to unpredictability, and a simple 5-cent piece became something extraordinary. If you ever come across a 1990 Jefferson nickel that looks strange, maybe off-centered, thicker than usual, a bit discolored, or missing part of its rim, don't dismiss it. It could be one of these remarkable minting errors worth thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars. Always check the details carefully. Look for doubling in the letters, unusual weight, or an odd metallic color. These subtle differences can mean the difference between a regular coin and one worth up to $121,000. The story of the 1990 Jefferson nickel is a perfect reminder that even the smallest and most common coins can hold incredible secrets. Every time you handle your change, you're touching pieces of history, and sometimes, if luck is on your side, you might just be holding a fortune disguised as 5 cents. So take a closer look at your nickels. One small imperfection could turn out to be the discovery of a lifetime.